Welcome to the Unfinished Business Podcast. I'm your host, Eric Mulvin, and this is a show where we sit down with CEOs, leaders, visionaries, and creatives talking about how they're out there changing the world through their business, through their leadership, through their creativity, and through their organization. Because it doesn't matter who you are or what you have accomplished. Even someone like Jesse Itzler still has something out there that they would like to see in their lifetime completed. And so we explore those stories here on this very special live in Japan version of Unfinished Business with Eric Mulvin.
Now I'm talking with leaders about their unfinished business tonight.
Unfinished business.
Where people in tech connect to amplify.
Unfinished business.
Human intelligence plus AI.
Unfinished business.
Moonshot goals that launch you high.
Unfinished business.
Listen close and you'll learn why.
This episode is brought to you by PackBiz Outsourcing. At PackBiz, we help software, e-com, taxi, and NEMT companies outsource their customer support and back office work with dedicated teams in the Philippines. These are full-time remote staff who work as part of your team, handling calls, emails, chat support, dispatch, and admin tasks, so you can improve support, scale faster, and keep costs under control. For example, one client cut out over $600,000 a year by switching key support roles like dispatch to PackBiz teams. So if you're trying to lower cost or scale support, visit pack-biz.com to learn more, or you can give us a call Monday through Friday during business hours at 480-771-3009. You do not want to miss today's episode. From going broke in India with just a few dollars to his name, to building businesses across multiple continents, to launching a sold-out event with over 2,000 people with the keynote speaker canceling just weeks before showtime, even receiving a call from the Yakuza to help solve his problems, to building and exiting multiple seven-figure businesses. This is one of the most unbelievable entrepreneurial journeys that I've heard on this podcast. And every one of the stories that we talked about comes with a lesson that could change the way that you think about business, marketing, AI, and taking risks. And so my guest today is a coach, a builder, and explorer based in Tokyo, Japan. He coaches high-performing coaches to stop chasing clients and start being chosen through authority-driven content that does the selling for them. He has spoken live on stages around the world, including Tokyo, Sydney, Los Angeles, Bangkok, and Singapore. He's the founder of GoBox Studio, 20X Agency, and the creator of Video Marketing Machine, a system that teaches coaches how to build a content engine, create high-converting video campaigns, and train their own in-house creative team, and has built and successfully exited 3 seven-figure businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Ken Okazaki. All right, welcome to the show, Ken. Thank you so much for inviting me here.
Thanks, Eric.
This beautiful place.
Yeah, this is the first time I'm recording content here, but I probably will start using this place in the future. It's just, I live in Japan, so people expect something that looks Japanese, I guess.
Yeah, I was looking for something like that too. So we were talking before, like I'm staying in a hotel in Tokyo, and they all look the same. So
they all look the
appreciate
same.
you inviting me out to your neighborhood here.
Fantastic.
Cool. So I know we've been hanging out here for a little bit, and I wanted to ask you a lot of questions, but I was saving them for when we hit the record button, so I could ask you for the first time on the show here.
Okay.
But I've been following you online, I think, for like 3 or 4 years now, and I've been seeing a lot of what you've been doing already through some of the, like GoBox Studio and a lot of the coaching that you're doing for marketing. So tell everyone on the show here, talk to me about what is it that, give us a little background on who you are here, besides the little intro I gave.
So who am I? Well, I could go the route of talking about the businesses and the history I did there, but you could just Google that and that'll all be there. But I think at my core, what I found through the various businesses that I've started is I love building stuff, whether it's going to be a software stack, whether it's a team, whether it's a training module for my course, or whether it's a physical invention like GoBox Studio. It's just built, it's in my core. If I'm not building something, then I don't feel alive, you know? So, and aside from being a builder, I I'm a dad. I've got 6 children.
Oh, wow.
And my oldest is 28, youngest is 18, and I've very recently become an empty nester. Just 2 weeks ago, my youngest one moved out, and she just entered college in Paris.
My gosh.
So,
well, congratulations.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know, you might have some mixed feelings about the last one leaving home.
No, I'm proud of her. Very proud of her. Yeah.
Congrats. So that's cool. So, all right, there's a lot that we could unpack from that. But being a builder, so how did you get started into building businesses then? Because I don't think a lot of people that I know in entrepreneurship did not go out intending to start a business.
Yeah.
It
So
kind of fell into their lap.
So here's the short version. I'm 17 years old. I'm determined to leave home. I'm one of those type of teenagers that parents don't dream about. And I decided that by hook or by crook I was going to leave home. And so I went and got a part-time job as a construction worker. Saved up $3,000 to my name, which I thought I was very, very rich at the time, right? And what happened is I did that thing where you spin the globe and you close your eyes and you point your finger down, and my finger landed right in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. So that wasn't going to work. So I did it again. And the second time I landed in India. So I thought, okay, great. Sounds like an interesting place. I'd never, left Japan before, So I made my way out there. And I thought that I was rich, but I found that, just a little bit of partying is going to deplete all your money real fast. I went broke, and I had 2 options. Either I could beg my family, my parents, to bail me out and get me back to Japan, or I could try to figure this out. So the very first business I started was selling like semi-precious stones, jewelry from India back to Japan, because I had a friend who would do flea markets in Japan and just sell all kinds of curiosities. Mm-hmm. And I found on the street these vendors selling tiger eye jewelry, and I saw the price and I compared it to what I remember in Japan was, this is in the 90s, right?
Yeah.
And I think it was like a 20x markup, and I just thought, and then a light bulb went off my brain. I thought I could make money off the margin, right? So it was like a gray market thing. I spent all the rest of the money I had, shipped it to my friend, collect. He went and sold it. We split the difference, and I think in the first shipment I did, I put like $100 or $150, which was everything I had. So I was like betting everything on it. And about a month later, I made like $8,000 off of that. And yeah. So I was just like, in my mind, everything started opening up. Like, okay, now I understand the concept of if you have a good idea plus execution equals money. Yeah. And since then, like your brain does not go back to how it was once you've, had that experience.
Yeah, and it's so interesting. You talk about being a builder, and you actually started in construction.
Well, yeah, I just took that because that was the convenient. That's a few of my friends had a job, so they just said, "Hey, you could just hop on with us." But through my childhood, I've always just been making stuff. Whether it's Lego, whether it's going to be with cardboard, just making forts and stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm always building something, and yeah, there's probably when I went to India was probably the least creative part of my journey, but yeah, that was it. That's how I started.
That is incredible. So I feel like, that could take you down a path into like the import-export business, and you go down that path and you don't look back. But obviously, that's not the path that you took. That was like, so what happened after that?
Well, after about less than a year in India, it was close to a year, I got bored, right? So I left India, came back to Japan, and then I had a friend who was recruited as a member of film crew going to Uganda to film a documentary. And this was kind of a long-term thing, like a year-long type of project. Yeah. And they're just like, hey, we need another helper. Do you know how to use a camera? And I'm just like, this is before Google, right? Yeah. So I'm just like, yeah. And I was just going to like figure it out.
So you didn't know how to use a camera? Maybe a little bit.
Not very, like at the time, I think if you had a mini DV camera and it had 3 CCD, then that was considered like professional, right? So that's yeah, 3 CCD was a Panasonic with crazy amount of zoom. So I learned just enough so that I could be a helper on their film crew, and the rest I figured I'll just figure it out on the way.
So that's how you got into video then, huh?
That's how I got into video.
Because
Yeah.
I was wondering, how did you get into video? People have their different stories. So now, something you must have fell in love with video. I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, I've always loved video. You know, it's very creative. It's fun, and also I'm Japanese. It's kind of genetically, you know, like magnetic attraction to cameras and gear.
Yeah, I mean, you guys are the producers of a lot of the equipment that I own and got behind me here. So, but all right. So, what did you learn being? Were you there for a full year then?
I was there for like 3 years actually, because that's where I met my wife.
Okay.
Yeah, so she was one of the subjects of the documentary, and I'm out there filming her, and she was a teacher, and the documentary was about this education program. There was an NGO, and they were making infomercials and documentaries to raise funds, right?
Okay.
So that's what the project was. And she was one of the subjects, and she was going out to these rural schoolyards, and these schools literally were dirt floor, mud walls, and the kids were sitting on rocks. And she was testing the material and the curriculum on these rural kids to see if, you know, it translates, you know, like culturally. And I was filming those interactions, and so it's just me and her, and we're way out in the boonies, literally the boonies in Africa, and that's how I got to know her.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't think I was going to get your origin story of meeting your wife at the same time too. So, Uganda, right? And you were doing video, and you ended up staying there for 3 years.
Yeah, and that's where we also started my first ads agency. We started creating TV ads for the local businesses in Uganda. And what was happening was, at the time, there were some South African businesses and European businesses trying to break into the Ugandan market, but there wasn't any like local agency that was doing things at a professional level. There were some American agencies, like branches of bigger ones, and they were charging American rates, which was, you know...
No one could afford that.
Well, they could, but we were doing it at like a quarter of the rate because we actually lived in Uganda. So, we could survive off of it a lot less. They didn't have to make profits for the head office. So we got contracts with like major telecom businesses because this is when the mobile wars were happening, trying to penetrate. We got contracts with airlines. We got contracts with coffee businesses, which was one of the main exports in Uganda, and shoe companies. There was like a lot of stuff going on. And then the reason they liked us was because we would hire and scout local actors, Ugandans, that spoke with a Ugandan accent. Whereas the other guys were, sourcing actors from their agency portfolio, and they sounded British or, like Kenyan or something, and the locals understood, they felt the difference. So that was kind of our unique edge, is we built our reputation around using local Ugandan actors, producing everything locally, and then it had much better penetration with the, with audience.
So you learned some big lessons there along the way that, hey, this stuff is working. And you were able to, connecting with the audience. And
this was TV at the time, not internet. This is pre-internet stuff.
Yeah. So, so productions were much bigger than like what we have now, where you could just set up a couple cameras and a small crew. You probably had some budgets and some production going on.
Well, it wasn't that major. That's why we were able to steal those contracts.
Yeah.
We kept the costs pretty low. It was a guerrilla type of operation.
Yeah. But I don't know. I'm the serial entrepreneur guy, and I'm hearing the same from you. What kept you on the same path without because I know a lot of entrepreneurs have the shiny object syndrome, right? Mm-hmm. Like where you see...
No, I've got that. I've got that problem. I think I'd be 5 times further ahead in my business if I didn't. So let's just say that I somehow survived despite.
Okay.
Despite it. I have not found a solution to beat that yet. And I did try taking... I am diagnosed with ADHD. Mm-hmm. And I was medicated for a while, and it worked until it didn't, and then I quit. So that was like 2 years ago. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I think I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of entrepreneurs are undiagnosed ADHD.
It's likely. It's very likely.
I should look into that for myself because I'm always the shiny object syndrome is for real for me. So, are you still doing any agency work today, or?
Yeah, so 20X Agency is our content creation agency, and we typically work with established established businesses in the like authority marketing, content creation, coaching, personal development space. And that's been going for about 10 years. And then the newer business is the coaching side, where I get to just help coaches who are, probably at or maybe even less than $1 million a year, and helping them to get their content creation up to par, training them. And I like both. I like the agency side because you create a system and you follow a system and everything runs. The coaching side, I get to be way more in the moment and creative, and I'm constantly coming up, helping people have breakthroughs, psychologically, mentally, giving them ideas that they can use and things like that. And then, they follow the course, and, even though it's very likely to happen every time someone has a breakthrough, like they get, their first sale from Instagram, or their first, $10,000 contract or $100,000 contract, and they tell me about it, it still feels like magic.
Yeah. I'm sure, for everyone involved, like, oh my gosh, because it seems like you hear about everyone else doing it, and you're I've tried all this stuff, and you're able to come in and it's not, I'm guessing it's not like everything you're doing is wrong. It's probably like, let's just shift you over here a little bit, let's tweak some things.
Sometimes, to tell you the truth, they're doing everything right, they just need to do more of it. They're like creating beautiful, content, and they're doing it once a week. And I'm just like, okay, what's stopping you from doing 10 a week? I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just like, okay, so let's see how that looks, And we also support them with, in the coaching program, people can come for just the course and my coaching, or they can optionally just opt in, and there's a limited agency package where we'll just edit all the short form content for them. That way, even if they're a one-man show, everything's taken care of. They just show up, they shoot stuff on their phone, upload it to the portal, and then, everything else just gets taken care of. So there's something for everybody,
Yeah. And I've been living those nightmares of like content for years. So we'll have to talk offline after the show and some of this. So what are some success stories you've had, if you have like one or two that you can think of, where you've been able to...
Before we get to the success stories, I'll talk about some really harrowing moments I had, so that the success stories feel bigger in comparison.
Okay.
So I think it was 2015, I started my first seminar business where I was doing personal development, and I was not the main speaker. What I would do is I would hire a famous person from abroad and get them on contract, and then sell out conferences in Japan saying, hey, this famous person is coming over. And for the sake of, I'm not going to mention their name because you'll see why. So I hired this person, really famous, and I sold about 2,000 tickets to a seminar. They're the key speaker. Their face was on every piece of advertising. And that's when I guess I was content marketing. Then I was creating a lot of ads, running them on Facebook and YouTube, selling tickets. And this sold really well. Front row seats were about $7,000. Back row was $700. Packed the place out. Really high expectations. And 2 weeks before the event, the main speaker tells me he can't make it to Japan.
Oh no.
He couldn't get a visa.
That's impossible to overcome almost.
I went through a lot of trouble to try to figure out how I could get him in. And I went as far as talking to... No, he legally couldn't enter for legal reasons because of some stuff he had done in the past. And I remember, for 1 week straight, I was going absolutely crazy, like calling everybody I know, like pulling favors. Like, for example, I found that, so there's a law in Japan that if you have ever served one consecutive year in prison, any time in your life, you are permanently barred from entering Japan. Permanently. However, I heard that Snoop Dogg had done a concert in Japan, and I know he's been in prison for over a year. So I was just like, how did he get in Japan? I did my research, and I found out, okay, so what happened was he got onto a U.S. military base with a military aircraft, and then he got a day pass to go out and do his concert, but he had to come in by curfew, 9 p.m. I'm just like, okay, great. So this guy I'm bringing is also kind of famous. Let's see if we could get that to work. And they actually agreed. I was just like, yay, this is amazing. But then the next day he called back and said, you know what, we can't do it. I'm just like, why? And he says, well, it sounds like, you know, the servicemen, the guys who would actually be sitting in there, he was going to do some pro bono stuff for them. They didn't like him.
Oh, no.
So nobody's going to show up for his motivational talk. So that had to get canceled. I was researching how to assemble a barge 2 miles off the coast, which is international water, so he doesn't technically enter Japan. And, you know, the Coast Guard was definitely not going to allow that. I was researching everything. I talked to them. I had a phone call, not a face-to-face meeting. I couldn't quite get that, but a phone call with the Minister of Justice for Japan, and to see if he could make an exception. He didn't. So after all that, I had to pull the plug. And that's how I started my seminar business, with that as the big splash. And what happened was I had 2,000 people. I didn't have the money to refund them because every time, you know, I'd sell more tickets, I'd put that back into advertising, pay for the venue,
Yeah.
And so I didn't have the money to refund these guys. And at the time, the only thing I could think of was to quickly book another speaker for another event a month later, see how many people I could transfer over. And for everybody else, I would have to, you know, give them a lot of IOUs and slowly pay them off. So every month I was putting on events in Japan, a couple thousand people every month, sometimes up to like 8,000. And it took me 2 years to actually refund every person from that first event.
Oh my gosh.
So I'd take a bit of profit and then pay off as much as I could after every single event, and then again and again. So that's how I started the events business.
But what made you decide to go so big for the first one? Because I mean,
because the time was right, where this person I knew would draw a large crowd, and
he did.
he did. Yeah.
Man,
So that's how I started.
So that's how you started. And for some people, they would come across that. Well, they probably wouldn't have kept pushing all the way to get to like the Minister of Defense. But I mean, you never took no for an answer.
Well, I eventually did. Well,
Eventually you had to, but
I'll tell you what was a tipping point for me. I got contacted by the Yakuza in Japan because, you know, I was talking to so many people, and someone calls me up and say, hey, I heard you have a visa problem. I'm just like, who's this? And they're just like, well, you know, and I could kind of tell by, you know, the nuance, like who it was. And they're just like, look, here's the thing. If you pay us 5 million yen, which is about $50,000 at the time, and you tell him to come to this immigration booth at this time, then he's going to go through with no problem. And it was very tempting. It was very tempting. But then I knew that this could backfire very badly. Number one, if that didn't work out, I could go to jail, and he could go to jail, right?
and then that would be another set of problems.
Number two, even if it did work out, now, like if you ever do any transaction with the Yakuza, it's probably the same as the mafia in any country. They've got you by the balls for the rest of your life, and they could keep like, you know, trying to milk more from you to say, hey, we're going to talk about this thing, you know, like they've got you.
Yeah.
So and the fact that I almost considered doing the deal with them is when I realized, okay, this has gone too far. I need to cut my losses and find a different route. So that's what convinced me, because my mind went to a place where I was willing to consider working with the Yakuza.
Hey, so good lesson there for the people listening. You know, I feel like, you know, in business sometimes you don't know when to stop. You see people, they'll push themselves into bankruptcy. They'll push themselves like into horrible places. What other moments in your businesses have you come across points like that where you're like, I need to pivot, I need to adjust trajectory, or stop going down this path?
So in early, I think it was 2022 or 23, I invented the GoBox Studio, which was something that came out of necessity because I used to fly film crews out to my clients around the world. And when COVID happened, that shut down. And then I had a certain client who said, hey, could you just design something so I could just pop open the box and everything's strapped in, and I just need to, just hit record. So I got as close as I could with something called the GoBox. It wasn't GoBox at the time, it didn't have a name. He loved it, he took a picture, stuck it on Instagram, and he got thousands and thousands of comments and likes. Most of the people saying, where can I buy one of these? So he gets on the phone with me, he says, Ken, I think that you'll make a lot more money with this product than with your little agency. And the word little is what kind of stung. I'm just like,
Little agency.
And I was just like, you know what? So my mind started getting to work. Like, how can I turn this into, a manufacturable product? And so I worked for a few months, you know, and I have zero background in industrial design or engineering. I just have a belief that everything is figure outable. So I figured out how to get this thing to work, and I had 100 units made, and I thought to myself, okay, I have to know if this is a hobby or if it's a real business. And so I went out to San Diego. I think I spent about altogether like $50,000 to $60,000 on a booth plus flights, and I went to a conference called Traffic and Conversions.
Oh yeah.
And I went there, and not like a videography thing, because I thought, okay, this, you know, to a discerning videographer, they're already going to have their favorite lens, and like everything is already going to be decided in their mind what they want and don't want. But if I go to where marketers are, they just know they need good video, and they're going to accept, you know, the kit that I prepared for them. So that went really well. We did close to $250,000 in a day.
And this is before, were you manufacturing anything?
No.
yet?
These are just hand assembled. So I was just like, okay, I think it's a business. And so I went home to Japan. I hired a friend to hand assemble these and ship them off. And over the course of, you know, about a year and a half, you know, we sold 100 units. That's, you know, hit the $1 million mark. And then I thought, okay, we barely made money on that because of the fact that everything's being hand assembled. It's being, I was sourcing 14 factories in China to make custom parts, to ship them to Japan, assemble them, and then ship them out to, like, it was the most inefficient thing. But all I wanted was a proof of concept.
Yeah.
So I thought that I had already, you know, passed the hurdle of the difficult part, getting version 1. But version 2, creating something that could be mass manufactured in a factory, just pumped out like 100 a day, that was way harder. Way harder. And so I hired a design agency to help me, you know, turn it into something that could be mass manufactured. So around the end of last year, I got to the point where I had the mass manufacturing model. I figured out the costs, you know, and we're going to make pretty good profits. We brought the cost down to like 1/4 the previous size.
Wow. So
that we could sell it for about 1/4 of the previous size and still make healthy profits. It's just a much wider appeal. And then I realized, you know what? If in order to place my first order with a minimum order quantity of 1,000 units, and then I just looked at the roadmap and I thought, this is going to completely consume me. So if I go this route of all these unknowns, I could probably make it work, but everything else is going to suffer. So I had to make a decision. And that's when I realized, okay, I've got my coaching business, I've got my agency, and I got GoBox. One of these 3 precious babies have got to die. And it was tough. So then I started, I think I paid $2,000 to a consultant. And that somebody recommended, just to talk me through this. And he suggested that I sell GoBox because that's the physical one that doesn't require my presence. So, and then he just gave me a few like profiles of the kind of person I should target to sell it to. And that took me all of 2 weeks to find a buyer for the business.
Wow.
And then after I found a buyer, a week later, I flew out this is just in December 27 last year. I flew out to the UK, went over there, signed the contract, walked away with a multi-million-dollar exit, and now I'm back to coaching and the agency.
With your little agency.
Yes. So that's, I'd say that's a win, you know? But I realized I was overextending myself, trying to do all this stuff. It wasn't bringing me joy. Inventing it brought me joy. The challenges brought me joy, but trying to do 3 unique businesses was not bringing me joy.
Yeah.
And the same for everybody around me, constantly stressed about, okay, where are you going to get the money for this? Like I'm stealing from one business to try to feed another. It was messy.
Yeah, I'm sure I don't know how the tax stuff works in Japan, but I'm sure whoever's running that's like talking to you about like, this is a mess.
Yeah, it was a mess.
Well, but that's interesting. You know, I've talked to, so the last person I had on the show, Derek Maines, he has a company, The Process Fixer, and we had this whole discussion on the show that people shouldn't exit their business. They should just keep it. Or like, too many people.
When you got 3, then maybe it's too much.
Yeah, that's okay. That's a little different. But there, like, I know businesses that are going through the process of exit, and people who have agencies that are going through the process of exiting out, and their process is so complicated. I mean, was this easier because it was a product and it's pretty cut and dry, or
Yeah.
like?
Well, what I had, the most valuable thing was actually the customer list. And so the buyer actually had their own media production business, and they own a football club and everything. And they thought, okay, this is a great way. Oh, and they also own a software business, a video editing software, specifically for podcasts. So what he wanted was a shiny object that's going to bring people in the door. They're going to say, what the hell is that? That's really cool. And it comes bundled with all this other stuff, their media production services, their software bundles, and and they're going for corporate. So it was just a good fit, and it just fit their constellation of businesses. And this one, they needed almost what I would call a loss leader, to get out there and to get their brand more noticed.
Okay, yeah, that's just so fascinating
because the business was not profiting at the time that I sold it. We were negative. But then I had brought everything up just to the brink of doing a proper Kickstarter launch, and they're just like, okay, great, these are all the parts, and they've got more team and more money, and I did all the hard work of bringing it there, but I didn't have, or at least didn't want to, risk the rest of my money to take this to the next stage.
Yeah, there's still risk involved. It's not guaranteed that it's going to blow up.
Well, even if it did, there's still risk beyond that.
That's its own set of problems of scaling.
Manufacturing a complex electronic, product is tricky.
Yeah, it reminds me. I don't know if you ever what kind of risks were involved with that, because you're dealing with electronics and batteries and all kinds of stuff. My first
supply chain was really tough with the chips being really restricted, because the high-end chips need to come from Taiwan, and there was a lot of disruption in the supply chains globally.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I know. In Phoenix, they're about $60 billion in building a big semiconductor plant out there with Taiwan. So, but were you aware, or for me, my first real business was a taxi company, and the thing that kept me up at night was the risk. We had drivers that they'd be getting into accidents, totaled the vehicle, they'd be getting robbed at gunpoint, taking people home at 3 a.m. Were there any risks that were keeping you up at night with that business, with manufacturing and?
You see, we never got to the stage where I completely went mass manufacturing. I got to the stage where we're hand assembling them. And I was close enough to the situation where I could manage that.
Yeah.
But the next stage was to produce thousands and thousands. Now here's the thing. When it comes to manufacturing, there is, understandably, the market, the industry, standard is going to be if you can get 90% of the product, up to par, then you're good. So I'm just thinking, wait, if I produce 10,000, then I got to deal with 1,000 complaints and, possible, lawsuits and stuff. So, even companies like Apple, the stuff gets manufactured in China, and then it gets brought to the US and unpacked and individually inspected, then repacked, then shipped to Americans.
Oh, wow.
And I was doing all this research, and that's when I realized I don't know if I want to do this, because this is a complex product, So I was happy that somebody else, who was better backed and had more of a runway than me, was going to take over the business.
Yeah, I just find it so crazy you were able to do it so quickly.
It was quite fortunate how quickly the deal went through. Yeah, it was the right time. And he was person, and this is a testament to content creation. He was somebody who's been following me on social media for a long time, maybe like you, and he just loved the way I trained and the material I did, and the trainings I did, and I think he even went through my course potentially. But because of that, it was because it's you, Ken, I want to do it. Not I wasn't a stranger who knocks on his door. It's somebody who'd been following me on social media for some time.
So that whole phrase that you hear all the time, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's something you've seen time and time again through your business career, or just because of that, your volume of content, your volume of work you've been able to create.
Yeah, for sure.
You have a big following out there that you don't realize.
It's not that big. It's not.
You have a following out there that, but it could translate into.
It could.
Business.
It's translated to business over and over and over again. So that's That's for, and one of the things that people do say is, I've been at it, like content creation, for longer than most people, and I haven't blown up to get, like these viral sensations. And recently, there's a lot of people who are really blowing up with content creation, and they've been at it shorter than me. But then there's been a lot of people who have spiked and then done something else or quit for whatever reason. And I've just been doing it very consistently for about 10 years. So that's one thing people say is that, like, hey, you've been around for this long, and it just shows that you seem more trustworthy. Whatever, they mean by that, I'm not exactly sure. It's just a dog on a bone. I figured out something I'm pretty good at. I just kept going at it.
Yeah. Well, I think there's definitely something to be said for, like, being consistent for that long of time is pretty incredible. Content creation. You've been able to coach a lot of people over the years, and you talked about this, up and down spike, and people burn themselves out trying to be something they're not who they really are, or whatever the reason is. What's the biggest reason why people don't stick with it? They burn out. They spike and then they disappear off the map.
Yeah, I think they don't see results fast enough, and their expectations are not. Well, their expectations and the amount of effort they make, they don't match. Mm-hmm. Like, I think people can pop off really quickly if they go really hard at it and they actually do, at least 5 unique videos per week, and they keep going with that. If they do 10, that's even better. But some people are expecting to put 1 or 2 pieces of content out a week, and within a month, they're going to start seeing results, and clients are going to come knocking on their door. It's possible, but not likely. Like, if we look at averages. So I think managing their expectations is probably the biggest reason I see people give up. Like, a lot of people just say, oh, it's too hard, it's too stressful. And then I ask them, well, if you were getting, $1,000 an hour from social media, would it still feel too hard? It's like, no. I was like, yeah, exactly. It's like, it's not too hard. It's just that your expectations are not meeting the amount of effort that you're putting in. So that's probably the biggest one. The second one is people get stuck with the editing part. They do all this work, they get in front of the camera, they set up the gear just like we have right here, and then after, they feel like they're done, right? Yeah. And then afterwards, they're just like, oh, shoot, we got to edit. And then after editing, now we got to make a thumbnail. Now we got to do the timestamps. Now we got to figure out which platform it goes on and use the scheduling app, and then write a caption. And then after it's up, then you got to promote it. Like, there's just a checklist of 100 things to do, and people don't realize how much work that is. Mm-hmm. And then they try to find an agency. And then a lot of times the agency, they don't really communicate the vision so well. And then the agency does what they think is right. These guys, look at it and they say, that's not what I was expecting. And the agency's like, you didn't tell us that. And then they're just like, oh, it doesn't work, I give up, right? So those are some of the typical things I see.
That's interesting. And with switch gears a little bit, mm-hmm. You talked a lot about these different businesses you had. You have kids. How were you able to raise 6 kids? Was it right? Did you say you have 6 kids? Mm-hmm. How did you do that? Wow.
All credit goes to my wife. Okay. All credit goes to my wife. So my job, we actually had this conversation, which is like, how are we going to survive, right? Like, how are we going to support these guys? And basically, the agreement we had was, I just need to worry about making enough money to support us. And she's going to run the household and, do the school visitations and, all that other stuff. Of course, I'm involved, but she took the lead mm-hmm. on the home front. I took the lead on the money-making front. So we're a single income family, this whole time. So I just had to, make it work financially mm-hmm. and take the lead there, and she took the lead at home.
Now, it's easy to say now, looking back, but were there some moments where you're like, I don't know about this, the money thing isn't working the way I thought it would?
Yeah, there's been some there were low points for sure. I can't think of a particular one. We never went hungry, never, had to, we were never kicked out of our house or anything because we couldn't pay rent. But I had to get very, very creative about where to find money a few times.
Yeah. So How have your kids inspired you at all for your business, or have they been any inspiration for any of the many ideas that you've?
You know, when I started the seminar business, I had to sometimes bring on like 40 crew members, volunteer crew. And my kids really wanted to be involved. So they're there, like really tiny, helping, hand out the worksheets and, collect the headsets, for live translation and stuff. That was inspiring to see how enthusiastic they were about getting involved. Right now, my very eldest son, he works in corporate, but when he was just getting started, like when they finished high school, they had a choice. Either they could go on to college or they could find a job, but they can't sit at home and do nothing. So basically, when they're in that in-between stage, I'm just like, so if you're not going to do one of those two things, you're going to work for me in my business until you figure out what you want to do. And so the first three did that. Now my third son, he's actually still working for me. He's in charge of the creative side of, and he manages my editing team. The other two, they've gone off to do other things, but they worked with me for a period of time. They got some training until they figured out what they wanted to do next. So yeah, that's been inspiring for them to work with me in the business and have that experience of having like a family-run business.
Yeah. Do you get to work with a lot of family businesses?
You mean as clients?
Yeah.
There's a couple, not too many.
Yeah.
Most of my clients are going to be in the like consulting coaching space. Mm-hmm. So it's mostly just like one key person, and they need help with their content and their brand. And usually they're going to have a couple assistants or something like that. So, but there's a couple clients who are like family business run.
Yeah.
But not the majority.
Yeah. We've come across that. Like, for whatever reason, me and my wife, we both have a lot of family-run businesses, and it's really fascinating. And you got the parents and the kids working in the business, and it creates all these interesting dynamics where it's like the pressure on the kid to like have to perform. So I'm sure you get to see some of that. I don't know if they're like coworkers treat your son differently, or they I don't know. They might never tell you this stuff, but I hear it sometimes from some of the younger generation.
It's possible. It's possible. We all work remotely. So I work from home. My son lives, a couple hours away. He works from home. I've got somebody else. So if there's drama that happens, I think that the drama is really reduced when everybody's, working remotely, because there's literally no, what do you call it, cooler?
The water cooler talk?
Water cooler talk, yeah. Like there's no water cooler.
It's now it's like what, Skype or no,
Slack.
Yeah,
but then people are more careful what they say because everything's on record.
Yeah, it seems like in my call center they put too much sometimes. I always joke around that we could start a TV drama,
like The Office.
the office drama that happens in a workplace. But yeah, that's, I think, when you have people in person. So yeah. With all the businesses that you have started, I'm curious. Now, I know you didn't run a business necessarily in the U.S., but what's it like running a business in Japan versus, other countries? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, you actually did some in Uganda, so you got to experience operating a business in a whole other country.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. When I started the current business, the video production and the agency, well, it started as a video production business. Then we switched to like a remote agency when COVID hit, but I used to serve mostly Japanese clients. And there's a certain, how Japanese service is legendary, right? But if you're the service provider, then that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work. There's so much hand-holding, and there's like, they want in-person meetings, they want a sign-off meeting. And I thought that was normal, it was to be expected, until I scored a US client. And, we hadn't done that kind of stuff before, but when we finished the project, they paid the invoice, and they're just like, thanks. And I was just like, that's it? Like, that's all I have to do? And I thought, okay, this guy is really low maintenance. That's amazing. But then I got another US client and, still doing it remotely. And it was the same experience. And then I started running the numbers in my head and realized, wow, if I don't have to have Japanese speaking staff, and if I could switch all to English speaking staff, and people work remotely, and I work with US or non-Japanese clients, like my profits goes up, my cost goes down, and my headaches go down. So this was quite a while ago that I decided on my Japanese client contracts I wasn't going to renew them, and I'd refer them to somebody else. But I just wanted to work with non-Japanese clients. So that it's been that way for the last 8 years probably, and not looking back. So that's a little bit of my personal experience working in Japan with but serving only foreign clients, because I don't have any Japanese speaking staff anymore. I don't. So I can't serve Japanese clients anyway, unless I'm going to be doing all the support calls, which I don't want to be doing.
Yeah. Then you're getting pulled in. So
yeah.
That's really fascinating. What about Uganda? Do you have any crazy challenges running
Not really.
a business there?
There were other challenges, like literally like safety issues. Like we had to have armed guards at our at our door to protect us. I've been in situations where we're in a war zone, and we were getting shot at and stuff. So that's the main reason why it wasn't we couldn't stay there.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's okay. Different reasons then.
Yeah. But I really loved Uganda. It was beautiful. The people are really, really beautiful, really friendly, easy to work there, easy to do business there.
Cool. Is there any particular business or anything that you've ever started that's like been your favorite one that you've done out of everything? Is that like asking who's your favorite kid?
I don't know. I think that like for example, the events business, there's a proportion of how much effort and how much reward there is. So I'm usually marketing a certain live event for about 2 months, maybe 2.5 months, and spending a whole bunch of money to get there. And then on the day of the event, everybody shows up, everybody's applauding, they're on their, they're standing up on their feet, they're clapping, they're smiling, they're having breakthroughs, and I also sell the next program or some back-end programs, and I make a profit there. So we're talking about 2.5 months of just slogging it through for 1 or 2 days of reward. So that was tough. I didn't enjoy that very much. That it was disproportionate, the amount of reward for effort, right? With the coaching business, I spend about 2 hours a week live with my clients in a group setting, and they follow the course and I just check in on them and they have their breakthroughs live. That's a much better, reward versus effort. And my marketing is literally just creating organic content and pushing that out through email and social media. So if I look at it that way, then I think the coaching business is probably the most rewarding. I don't think that it's going to be, it's hard to scale a coaching business past, let's say, like $10 million a year. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. And I'm not, it's still just growing because, as the agency is trying to scale back that so I could put more effort into the coaching business. So I'm kind of in a transition right now. Agency business, for me, it's, with the advent of AI, I pretty much have 2 options. I could go all in and double down and, with AI content creation, systematize, automate everything. But I didn't really feel it. Like for me, content creation was about the human interaction, somebody getting better at presenting on camera, at articulating, at gesturing, at performing. And when you take that all away, it just kind of takes away the joy of the art.
Yeah.
And just turns it into a digital process. It might grow on me, but I've created some stuff that looked very realistic. I put it on social media. Nobody to this day has ever commented on one of my posts saying, that's AI, isn't it? Like, they can't tell. It's that good. The voice is good. The rendering is perfect. But I'm not feeling it.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to go that route. But I am working with a few people, another business, consulting them on launching their own AI twin agency service. And we have a profit share type of arrangement where I just consult, because I didn't want to do it for my agency, so I let's find somebody else and I'll just consult them and we share the profits.
Well, and you get to learn throughout the way, hey, this is working, or
Exactly.
maybe not. And so, so great. I'm glad you mentioned AI because I wanted to talk to you about that. Because I've been doing video since, nonlinear tape deck editing. I used to do beta tapes and put them in there. And like old school, which you probably got to do some of that too.
Yep.
And it's changed so much. And so do you feel like this whole thing with AI is this just another iteration, like another like okay, we went from tapes to digital to like every time it opens up new doors, it brings new people in, or do you feel like this is really going to change everything in video?
It's already changed everything. It's never going to go back. The difference is that the people who embrace the whole the digital twin thing and like having a fake version of themselves online, it's kind of like these and TikTok's had these weight loss filters and makeup filters forever, right? And then a little glitch happens and then this influencer loses 500,000 followers because they realized, oh, they're actually fat and ugly.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it's a crutch, and what it does is it prevents you from developing the skills or becoming the person who's transparent and actually shows up as themselves. So for the people who actually want to get good at presenting and at leading, they're going to actually make the effort to get good on camera. The people who want the shortcut, maybe they're not really interested in developing themselves. They just want to make the money. Yeah, they could go the AI route, but I don't think that anybody who's really serious about developing themselves as a leader and as a business person is going to hide behind some AI fake version of themselves. I just don't. That's my opinion. They could still make money. You could go viral. I think Instagram and YouTube both, they recently purged many thousands of channels that were just doing automated AI content. And they're pretty smart. They can spot it, even if the human eye can't.
Yeah. How long ago did you start getting into AI?
You know what? I was in a conference in November 2022 when ChatGPT was announced. I was one of the I think when I got in, then it was still by invitation only. I was hooked from day one, just what's possible. But I've used it as a tool, not as a crutch, in the sense that some people you just read their posts and you could see, okay, this is obviously AI generated, and I just didn't want my posts to look like that. I didn't want my scripts to sound like that. I had to hold on to what is uniquely me, and then dig deeper instead of how do I sound better, right? So that those questions had to be separated.
That's interesting. You got into it so early on, and I feel like we did too. I had a client of ours that was when it started being released to the public after the people got the early invites like you. So I think we were 2024, early 2024 when we got in. So that's interesting. You got in so early when it was really based the earliest versions of that. And it's changed so much. You've been able to do a lot more. Back then it was just pretty text-based and stuff. Were you able to do a lot of transcript and
So I use it most. So here's the way I look at it. Is it's gonna help me do a lot of research and firm up some ideas that I have, and then actually help me pinpoint. Okay, out of all I usually will transcribe or just talk for 30 minutes to explain the concept or the idea that I have. Then it'll help me critique it and index it, and then give me some feedback on what's going to work. So I use it more like a consultant.
Yeah.
And then I look at it and I say, great, I'm going to grab this, this, and this, and then I will script it out myself and then actually shoot the content. Sometimes for short forms, for my clients, I have created a lot of AI agents where they just have a conversation and it'll spit out a script for them. And I always encourage them to say, this is the starting point. You go through and edit it and make it sound like you. Make it yours.
Yeah.
And then I watch their videos, and sometimes they obviously don't. I'm just like, come on, guys. Come on. So, but that's up to them, maybe they don't have time. They just, or they just don't have the ideas for how to turn that into something a bit more, unique to them. But the one phrase that keeps coming back to me is say only what only you can say. And when it comes to content creation, what I shared earlier, on our conversation about having gone to India, met my wife in Uganda, started the business, the gray market jewelry business, that's stuff that AI can't generate because that's my lived experience. And I think that as content creators, the more you focus on the experiences you had, the unique perspectives you have, even the micro experiences, for example, we could just talk about something as minor as, I hesitated from buying this thing even though I knew I could afford it. But I remembered this thing my dad said when I was a kid, like that's a micro experience, but that feels real.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff that your content needs to get wrapped in. Otherwise, you're going to sound like everybody else just trying to sound clever, like Gandhi or Mother Teresa or Steve Jobs or Alex Hormozy. Like, it's so generic.
Yeah.
And you can't give generic advice if you're not famous yet. It's true.
Yeah.
If you're not famous yet, you have to rely on your lived experience as the anchor point to get people interested, to listen to what you actually have to say. Once you have, 1 million, 10 million followers, you could say anything and everybody say, oh, wow, that's so clever. And probably 100 other people already said that before, but you're already famous, so you get credit.
Yeah. That's funny. One thing I talk a lot about, and especially I'm in the call center space, AI is severely disrupting, stuff like that. We talk about this concept, AI plus HI, where you can't just use AI. Mm-hmm. You have to bring in the human intelligence part. And when you do both, you can go so much further. Mm-hmm. Talk to me a little bit about that. I'm sure that's something, I'm hearing
Absolutely.
the same concept as you're explaining everything here about, because I have a phrase I always tell my staff, like, if you use ChatGPT for everything, you write your emails, you do that, and you don't put any, like you said, you got to go in there and make it sound like you. If you just do that, then I could replace you with ChatGPT.
Yeah.
And I don't need you anymore. So talk to me about how important it is for that HI component, especially with video marketing, with something that's so that personal when you're out there sharing stories about yourself.
Yeah, so AI, artificial intelligence, right? We've already gotten to the point, what do they call it? The Kaspersky moment where, Deep Blue beat the best human at chess, right? And people thought that wouldn't be possible. And that was, 30 years ago or something, right?
Yeah.
Now the moment has come where every form of measurable intelligence has been surpassed by AI over humans. But just not but the reason why it's still considered inferior is because the component that's missing, you call it HI, I call it wisdom. You've got intelligence and wisdom, they're not the same thing. How to apply the intelligence is what humans can do. They can make an actual judgment call. Humans have a gut feeling. Is this the right thing or the wrong thing to do? Does it feel right? Does it feel wrong? Does it feel fake? Does it feel real? AI does not have feelings. So wisdom is where you want to focus your energy, because intelligence has already been, general intelligence, AI is faster. It forgets a lot less. But as you know, it will lie to you every chance it gets to try to get away from it. If they could get away with it, because they don't have wisdom. So I think that if you're leading a team or clients and you're going to talk about this, you have to really double down on something called wisdom. And if you can get people to focus on using the intelligence wisely, then that's the winning combination right there.
Yeah, that's good advice. So for people listening, bring in that wisdom. You sold the other business. You're still running businesses. What keeps pushing you forward right now?
That's a good question. I think my priorities are really shifting. Number one, because my youngest has just moved out. Right, we've got a big house, feeling very empty. Especially empty because my wife actually flew with my youngest, went to France, so she's been gone for the last couple of weeks.
Oh.
So I'm experiencing okay, this is what it feels like to be a real empty nester. She'll be back soon. But the other thing is my oldest son just got married about 3 weeks ago.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah. So that means I'll probably be a grandfather sometime soon. And I also sold my first business. So I think that right now my priority is the coaching business, because that's something that I can see myself doing. It's one of those kind of, it's like golf. It's a sport that doesn't necessarily decline with age. Mm-hmm. Not too much, at least, right? And I feel like the longer I do it, the more I coach people, the better I'll get at it. And I still really enjoy doing that. And that also gives me the freedom to travel anywhere. Like with GoBox, there was, a lot of physical limitations. I didn't necessarily have to be there, but there was, warehousing and a lot of logistics. Coaching is lightweight. So, what's my priority? What keeps me going? I think when I started, it was all about surviving, like making sure that all my kids and everybody was provided for, right? And then putting, money into investments whenever possible. Now, I think it's about proving to myself that I actually really, I'm not sure actually. I think I'm at an inflection point where I'm trying to figure that out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'll land on it. What I do know is I'll keep the coaching business going. I'll keep the agency going for as long as, my current clients need me. But I do think that simplifying my life is what's already happening naturally, and I think it's going to keep happening, to where there's going to be a lot less hooks in me, like obligations to different parties and, locations and times. And maybe gaining back that freedom I had of just a lot less commitments and just fewer things that I could focus more of my energy into. Now that sounds simple, but with ADHD, sometimes I end up overcommitting to stuff. So we'll see how this journey goes.
Yeah, that's the thing about being an entrepreneur. You never know. I mean, I have this belief that, you don't know who's going to call you tomorrow, and everything can change. And,
It's possible. Yeah.
And that's the fun and exciting part, and a scary part too. It can go both ways, but usually, if you keep pushing forward, it's usually in the positive trajectory.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then I think it's time for my last question here then to ask you about, and I think it's a good, interesting spot here where you're thinking about the future and the businesses that you do have. Is there what's your unfinished business? What's something out there that you want to get accomplished still in your career?
I think that something I've never done yet is get a business to run completely without me. I mean, I did sell GoBox, but while I was in it, I was still the center of everything. And to fully own a business, but to not be in the operations at all, that's something I haven't done. And I'd really like to do that with the agency completely. So it's 90% there, but I think that the part where, when it comes to negotiations with the clients, when it comes to, the clients still wanting to speak with me, because I'm the one that sold them, that's a hurdle I haven't crossed yet. And that's something I'd like to get to. And that would be amazing, because then I wouldn't feel like I need to scale down the agency. I want to scale down the agency because it's just another commitment. But if I own it but don't need to run it, that would be a dream. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. And you can spend time with the grandkids, the future grandkids, out in Paris. So, cool. Well, thank you so much for inviting me out to this beautiful place and for letting me get to talk to you about your journey. And I'm excited to see, since you're at this inflection point, maybe we'll get a chance to talk again in a couple years and see where you're at and how you were able to navigate this the journey ahead. So, all right. Well, for people who would like to learn more about your coaching, like to learn more about your agency, where can they follow you? What's the best way to get in touch?
Probably the best way is just find me on Instagram or Facebook at Ken Okazaki. There's no spaces. KenOkazaki. My agency is 20x Agency, so 20xa.co. And those are probably the best places to find out what I'm doing.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you guys all for watching. And if you like to hear more stories like Ken here today, then please make sure that you follow and subscribe at Biz with Eric on social media, or look for the Unfinished Business Podcast with Eric Mulvin on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to podcasts. And until next time, we'll catch you on the next episode of Unfinished Business. See you later.
The world's changing fast. We're talking to business leaders who adapt, innovate, and keep moving forward, because nobody's business is ever finished. This is Unfinished Business with Eric Mulvin. Took my last check from Yelp, turned it into a taxi ride. Earned my street MBA, lessons you can't buy. 6 LLCs later, packed biz at new heights. Now I'm talking with leaders about their unfinished business tonight.
Unfinished business.
Where people in tech connect to amplify.
Unfinished business.
Human intelligence plus AI.
Unfinished business.
Moonshot goals that launch you high.
Unfinished business.
Listen close, and you'll learn why. CEOs and visionaries shaping what's to come, building more than profit, lifting everyone. Every path's unique, but it takes a choice to grow. Set your goals and shape the way your future goes.
Unfinished business.
Where people in tech connect to amplify.
Unfinished business.
Human intelligence plus AI.
Unfinished business.
Moonshot goals that launch you high.
Unfinished business.
Listen close, and you'll learn why.
Unfinished business.
Where people in tech connect to amplify.
Unfinished business.
Human intelligence plus AI.
Unfinished business.
Moonshot goals that launch you high.
Unfinished business.
Listen close, and you'll learn why. Subscribe, look for. Subscribe, look for. Biz with Eric online. And follow Unfinished Business on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, wherever you listen.